Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Eddie Jennings from EJSLLC.com. This video is another in my practice session series for the EX342 Red Hat Certified Specialist in Linux Diagnostics and Troubleshooting exam. Before I dive in, I want to thank returning subscribers for watching another video, as well as invite anyone who's watching, if you haven't subscribed, to click the subscribe button. Also, a reminder that these are my practice sessions for the exam. My exam's just under 3 weeks away, and so I'm going through all of the posted objectives from Red Hat and trying to either explain the concept behind the objectives or do some examples of said objectives. And at the end of the video, I'll do a little self-assessment, and hopefully I'll feel confident with the objective. And if not, I have just under 3 weeks to do some knowledge gap filling and brushing up before the actual exam. That being said, this video and the rest in this series should not be considered tutorials, nor should they be considered authoritative training materials. Just like you, I am working on learning the material myself. I put these out on the internet in hopes that those that are also working on this exam might get some ideas about ways of preparing and might inspire you to create some of your own exercises. But again, I'm still learning, so I would not use these as any type of authoritative information. So we're continuing in the Understand and Employ General Methods of Troubleshooting set of objectives and looking at configure systems to send log messages to a centralized host. So this is going to be all about rsyslog. So let's go to my terminal here, which actually I'm going to make a new tab. That's from my previous practice session. And I've since reverted the snapshot on that server. So let us go, actually I'll use lab server 2 for this. All right, so what we're going to be working with is rsyslog, and the configuration, once you kind of work out some of the syntax, is fairly straightforward in what to do. It's not as bad as AutoFS, and it's just seemingly insane syntax, but there's some elements to it. I mean, I know how to do some basic things, and I understand the structure of the syntax, but there's a couple of things that I've frankly just had to commit to memory. And because the documentation, or at least the way that Red Hat documentation has configuring templates and such, is different than what you see in the man page. And when I learned about this, I learned based off of the Red Hat documentation. So I'm not 100% sure what is considered best practice. Looking at some of the recent rsyslog documentation, it seems like what Red Hat stocks have is kind of the way to do it now, but it works. But it's one of these things that, you know, if you're preparing for this, you're probably going to want to have kind of in the front side of your head versus just relying on man pages through the exam, which is going to be true for a lot of this stuff. I mean, the beauty of the Red Hat exams is it's a hands-on thing and you're working with actual systems, so you have access to the offline documentation, whatever is available on a RHEL system. But you need to be familiar with whatever the concept and tools are, because if you rely on documentation for everything in the exam, you're probably not going to have time to finish all the stuff that you need to do. Let's go into rsyslog. I'm actually using Vim so I get some syntax highlighting. So rsyslog.conf, and I know there's a I think there's a conf.d file that you can dump stuff into, but the couple of things that we're going to be looking at are some of the input modules, and that's what this IM for a lot of these modules are. These are your input modules, and you will have OM for output modules. What we're going to do is enable the rsyslog service to actually be able to receive traffic. Typically that's going to be on port 514, and you can enable it for both TCP and UDP. I can see value in having both, just because I'm sure there are some systems that might just send that via UDP. Of course, TCP is going to be a more reliable connection just from the way TCP works with its handshakes versus UDP. I guess for this example, we'll do both, and then we'll see if we get results. Now, notice it says that you need to specify that we're going to load the input UDP module only once. Let's say that I suppose you could have multiple inputs on different ports. Perhaps you have an environment where some systems are going to come in on 514 and other systems will be on another port. But just saying that you want to load that particular module, you only need to do it once. So we're going to start with that. I'm going to go through a couple different scenarios just to see how stuff works. As far as rules, the basics of rules are whatever facility, which a facility is going to be like kernel stuff, user stuff, auth priv is one, mail is another, and the like, dot whatever level of log. And so that can be information, debug, emergency, critical, and then you will tell it where you're going to dump the log to. So in this case, anything that's of the facility auth priv of any level of severity, we're going to dump into varlog secure on this local system. Now, being as we've configured the inputs, then I believe this configuration as it is should work. It'll be dumping log files that are received into these various directories. Now, for you have some, notice it says anything that's an emergency. This output module user message, I think is basically going to be a wall command, and it will appear for everyone. That's something I need to look up and make sure that we have I have in the front of my head. I'm pretty sure the man pages explain a good bit of that. So we're going to take this configuration as it is. I'm going to save that, and what we're going to do is open the ports that are going to be needed for this. So add port 514 TCP, and we'll do the same for UDP. I could have done this in with -- permanent and then reload, but you can also do firewall CMD runtime to permanent, and that will write this running configuration to being permanent. And we're also going to restart rsyslog.d. Actually, before I do that, there's a little thing that I learned when I was beating my head against a wall trying to learn some of the rsyslog.d or rsyslog configs. You can run rsyslog log d -n and then 1. And there's actually different levels of this that you can do, but N1 will do kind of what you're looking for. And that is going to check the configuration of your rsyslog config file, which can be quite handy. So let's restart rsyslog. And this is just going to be rsyslog versus rsyslog.d if I can type and talk. Okay, and I'll do my SS. I think I mentioned this in another practice session. I use SS all the time. So we're listening both on TCP and UDP 514, and that's the rsyslog D process. So from the server perspective, we are set up. Now let's go, I'll go into, let's do server number 3. I'm going to save server 1 for something else. So idiot lab server 3. Okay, there is a command called logger that you can basically make log entries, and this is a great tool for doing some like testing of rsyslog config. Now, some of the parameters of this, I know others we're going to figure out as we go. I'm going to go and become root, and what we can do, I'm actually take a look at the man pages first. I'm going to look for -p. And in particular, -p. So we can do priority and level pair just like you have in the rsyslog.conf, such as notice or info and the like, which we will use. I believe, actually, this I haven't tried with logger, so I'm going to be kind of figuring this out as we go. So we'll do --server for the server, port, and then the message. Okay, excellent. So this should, famous last words in IT, right, work. So we're going to do logger -p. We'll just do mail dot debug just to make one up here. Server is actually these. If I set up hosts on all these, let's see. I think I have. Yeah, excellent. So we can use names for this. All right. I couldn't remember if I had set up all these with, I know I have it set up DNS for this. All right, so logger -p, we're going to do mail and debug. The server is going to be lab server 2, not egslab.com. Port is going to be 514. I think it defaults to TCP for this, and then our message. So we're going to do test message lab server 3. And let's see what happens. All right, so we have that there. Now, what I'm curious is if this is going to log it locally. So let us var log mail log. Let's try mail log 2024-1201. All right, so there's nothing in there. See if it's in do tail. Let's see if it's in messages. Yeah. All right, so nothing there. Let's go back to our syslog server and let's see if we have anything. So let's take a look at our config again. And it looks like all right, so all mail is going to go to var log mail log. I'm not 100% sure what this dash is. That's probably something I should look up. All right, so let's tail var log mail log. And there we go. We have our test message has successfully made it. Now we're going to try the same thing and specify UDP this time. I'm just going to say test message 2, and let's see if this still works. All right, we'll tail. All right, so we're working with both TCP and UDP. So logger command is great for testing that. Now, if we wanted to configure a server to automatically send this stuff to your centralized server, which that's going to be configure systems to send log messages to a centralized host, let's go into lab server 4 and we'll deal with that there. Become root. We do have an rsyslog d. These should be kind of like drop-in configuration files, so we might test that out. But otherwise, I'm just going to do this in rsyslog.conf. All right, so it's only 7:30. I shouldn't have as much brain issue with typing. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to make a rule, and from what I understand, I think all of the rules are evaluated. It's not like it reaches one rule and then stops doing all of the other rules. I may be wrong with that. Some of my testing showed that the rules are being evaluated. I think there may be a stop message or a stop directive that you can use without to make it stop checking out rules. That'll be something between now and the exam I want to kind of get fresh in my head, because I could see configuring rsyslog. Obviously, it's configure systems to send log messages to a centralized host, but I could see this being a low-hanging fruit if we're going to have to do this on the exam. And just for giggles, I'm going to make a rule that says we're going to send everything, but we're not going to send it to a particular directory. We are going to specify an action. And the type that we're going to specify is an output module called forward. And the target is going to be lab server 2.egslab.com. The port is going to be 514, and the protocol is going to be TCP. All right, so what this should do is start sending everything to lab server 2, and it should still put all the things as they should be in the other log files. So we know everything info goes to messages, so we can put that to the test here. All right, so we'll do logger p, we'll say user info, and we'll do test 1 from server 4. So we should see, yep, and var log messages there. And then back on this server, what we should see we have several things. Oh, did that not make it? Oh, I know what I did not do. I did not restart rsyslog. Well, that just shows that the other rule will work. So let's do test 2 from server 4. And let's make sure that, yep, still in the local log. And now let me clear my, so now we have several messages that have come from server 4. And so while this isn't the end of the world, this might make life a little bit difficult if you're wanting to, well, I guess you could use some of the journal CTL commands to filter out your hosts and such. But let's say that you wanted to have that with like file-based stuff. You want all of the log files that it receives from a particular host to go somewhere. And this is where the some of the templating stuff comes into play. And this was, I still don't particularly like the syntax of it, but it is what it is. And I've got it working somewhat well for doing a very basic thing. So we're going to go back into our rsyslog. Maybe we can try using rsyslog for this. Let me take a look at the rsyslog config. What I'm looking for is to see if there's like a shebang or anything, and there is not. Okay, so we are going to see how well my memory works. So I'm going to make a file. We'll use syntax highlighting. Etsy rsyslog.d, and we're going to call it 00. Let's see, folders or directories, directories.conf. All right, let's see if I can remember how this is going to work. So we need to specify a template. There's a couple of ways to do it, or I think there's 4 different ways of doing this. I have learned primarily list and string. So we're going to give this template a name, and the name is going to be test template. We are going to say this is a type list. Then we're going to use curly braces to give the config for this. So we're going to have a constant. Constant's going to have value equals something. And so what's going to happen here when this template is used for whatever you're making rsyslog do, a constant is a value that is always going to be created when this template is made. So in this case, I'm going to specify a file path, var log syslog test / Basically what I'm wanting to do here is create file paths to a particular specification that rsyslog is going to use. You can have properties. And this, I think within the rsyslog man pages, we can take a look in just a moment. And for this, I'm going to do host name. You can do all caps for that as well. Actually, while I'm at it, let me close this and let's take a look at man rsyslog. Oh, is it rsyslog D? Yes. And let's see if I can find where this would be. Again, you use your man page just as a reference if you forget something on the exam. But there's something about, it's not environment. It must be in the rsyslog.conf man page. So man rsyslog.conf. This is where you get some information about some of the modules. And where is it? Is it up here? And there's a lot of different filtering things that you can do that if I'm asked to do something super complex on the exam, I'm probably going to be a bit sunk, but basic stuff, which I think that's kind of what's being looked for with this, shouldn't be too tough. This is where the template see, notice this is template, and this isn't the syntax that I was taught. I'm sure it's perfectly valid syntax, but rather than totally relearn how to do syntax 3 weeks from now, I'm going with what I know will work. Examples, where is that? There we go, property replacer. So here we have host name. You can also do lowercase host name. And one that might be useful is for particular types of message, like the different facilities, you could have that as a part of your file name as well. But what I'm going to do, just for my example, see, so we have constant that, property host name. I'm going to do constant value slash syslog dot log, that in quotation marks, and we'll close the curly brace. So what this is going to do is, if this template is used, logs are going to be stored in the var log syslog tests directory that is named by the host name, and then in a file that was going to be syslog.log. So how are we going to make this work? So what we're going to say, we can make a rule that just says the a particular, or just like any rsyslog, we can say, mail.debug or whatever. But one would think that, or not, you don't necessarily assume this, but I would imagine that we're wanting to dump all of the logs for that particular host into a thing. So what I'm going to do is star.star, and the action I'm going to take, let's see, type, I believe, okay, yeah. So what we're going to say is it type template, or is it just going to be name? No, it's going to be type template. And then we're going to have dynafile is the name of the template. No, I'm wrong with this. The action is going to be input module, I think it's im file. Let's take a look at that man page one more time. This, clearly I'm misremembering. I know you're going to have dynafile for this. What is that other syntax? It's probably om file. Yeah, because this is an output module, so it's probably om file and then dynafile, I would imagine. And for this syntax I'm using, these examples don't help us much. There was something for actions. There's the actions. All right, regular file, then was the forwarding action. I think it'll be output module file is what I want. Well, we'll find out. om file, and then dynafile test template. Okay, so I'm curious to see if, all right, so that's good. What I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to make an intentional mistake and see if it complains. Okay, good. It is reading the config file there. Good. That's what I wanted to see. So it liked the configuration that I had, of course, before I intentionally made my mistake. So restart our syslog. All right, and let's see. All right, so syslog test is already there. So it's already getting lab server 2 stuff. It made our syslog thing right there. And I'm curious to see, tail just var log messages. I'm definitely going to need to look up the config for, all right, so you have this one rule and we don't want it to process any other rules. Of course, I don't know, and even if I did, I couldn't tell you because of NDA, but I have a feeling that that might be asked of me on the exam. But the point being that dynafile is working. Let's make another log file from server 4. Server 4 that we did this for server 4. So let's do test 3 from server 4. All right, we now have a lab server 4, and we'll tail lab server 4 syslog. And it's already grabbed a couple other things, and it got lab server 2 seems to have closed the connections. There's a remote peer. I wonder if that's because I restarted this service. I'll bet that's what it was. It's because I restarted the service. Well, speaking of, I want to check something. Our systemctl is enabled our syslog. Yeah, again, for services, you want to make sure that they're always enabled. So for the very basics of configuring systems to send log messages to a centralized host, I think I would pass this. I do want to look up about the rules as far as having a directive that will stop a rule. I also want to make sure that I understand like priority using that rsyslog.d directory with rules. What was the other one? Oh, there's another way of doing the syntax. Instead of list, you can do string, but unless Red Hat specifically says you must do a string, I will probably do a list because I'm the most familiar with that, but it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to practice writing the rsyslog configs with string as well. So again, overall, I think I would consider myself a pass for being able to make rsyslog behave the way that I want. Hopefully you found this video useful. If you did, make sure you do click like. I want to thank returning subscribers for watching another video, as well as invite anyone who's watching, if you haven't subscribed, to click the subscribe button and ring the bell when you do, so you can be aware when new content comes available. Thanks again for taking the time to watch, and I'll see you the next time.